This is your debut feature that you wrote and directed. And so why did you decide to do a picture of adolescents? And this is also kind of so the loss of innocence also. And you set it in the country. And this we rarely see. So we only see phones at the beginning. They go in the supermarket, and so why did you decide to do it that way? Because these days we don't see very adolescents and even children. They have so their schedules are complete. They cannot decide anything. And in here you see the time passing, and it's something very different from our lives now. But at the same time, it is dreamy but very real.
Yeah, that's important. I think that was important to all of us involved in the film. It feeling right now, but also being able to be timeless so that it lends itself to any other viewer. Like, we wanted to have as broad of an audience as possible, and also only include things that would activate something in the mind, and not put too many things in there that were expository or over the top. We just wanted to give as few but as necessary of details as possible. Like, really refine it. Think about like when you make an airplane or a car, you sculpt it and then you're just trying to get as much wind resistance removed as possible. Just streamline the whole system.
When we saw, you have some references that we can see. Some are explicit, like Gus Van Sant Elephants. When we see, I don't remember if it is Bobby or Adam. Because that's the thing I would like to discuss.
Oh yeah, how they're kind of similar.
In the corridor of
yeah, that's
school.
Adam. Yeah.
And so sometimes it also reminded me. Jerry, the wandering in the nature. Jerry, or even the film he made on Kurt Cobain,
yeah,
when he wanders in the park of in the garden of his house, and why you had these references, and how did you relate it also to the nature, because the landscape is very present.
Yeah, using nature. I think almost a stronger reference was actually like painting than film for that kind of thing. We were really into the Hudson Valley school of painting, and how they just show how vast nature is, and usually the person would be depicted like, if this whole rectangle were the canvas, the person would be the 9 or something like that, where they're really just a very small piece of the puzzle. But it's kind of true to the nature of existence, that we're just in this big world.
But you were born in North Carolina, is where the setting of the film is.
Yeah, I wasn't born there, but I spent now not quite a majority of my life, but about half of my life in North Carolina.
And that's one of the reasons you chose this landscape. And
yeah, well, the whole story comes from my adolescence. The time in which these kids are living is the time in which this event basically happened to me. I had a peer, this kid named Adam Sapikowski, and I went to school with him for 4 years. And then my last year of school with him, he murdered his parents so that he could have a party.
Oh.
But you know, it was kind of, I think I wrote this film as a way of processing a kind of severe event like that, but also as a way to kind of understand him, not to show him in a negative way, but to show that kind of experience as being a human one, and that it could have been prevented had he felt more okay with himself and with his peers. Maybe if he had moments to communicate, or maybe if he had gotten to go to prom with Caroline, anything like that.
These adolescents, so at the same time they feel kind of abandoned to themselves, and it looks like they have to take care of the adults. There's Bobby, who takes care of his grandfather.
Well, it's actually his father, but it's funny that you think, I think I make that reference because my father is 87 and was born in 33. So I always had the gray-haired fox father. You know, that was always part of my life. But also I think my sister's my mom's first husband, my sister's dad, he was a brilliant writer, but he was very often on the couch. So I think I also had a little bit of an amalgamate for that reference.
And are there also any references to other to your artist work? Because so you work with fabrics, and, that's that kind of fabric where something mysterious happens.
Yes.
And where he
hides, totally. The tarp, actually, yes. Yeah. The tarp that's used as kind of a silhouette element is this tarpaulin material that is used heavily in industry and construction. And I've always found these kind of universal surfaces very beautiful. But I think that's also part of the film, is making it a simple but as effective as possible. So I think in my artwork I try to suggest and create feelings for the viewer, but with as little a touch as possible. So trying to be efficient and practical is very important.
And just out of curiosity, when the coach is lying on a chair, there in the back we see a kind of is that a work of yours?
Oh no, well the in the chair, that was Audrey Turner was like all the set design. She did all that stuff, and she was really on it. I don't know if you notice, there's like a little contraption for a noose, like a hanging set that's on the coach's desk. And the whole idea is that he's been sequestered to that room kind of during the hard times of a marriage, you know, when they stop sleeping in the same bed. Yeah, Audrey did a fantastic job with that space. It's kind of got this really strange, like minimalist screensaver. Is that what you're talking about, where there's like a ball bouncing around? But I think there are some artworks weirdly in the movie, but I can't remember. And who chose the songs for the? I think Olmo and I did a lot of the music selection together, and then Ben Morrisberger did all the original scores, and then we had Lou Reed, Bing Crosby, Necro, DMX. There's a lot of music in there. But Olmo did all the party stuff, and then the Italian, the Te Amo. That was amazing. We basically walked into that location, and Olmo and I were like, "Yep, this is going to be the song." We had been basically playing the song all the time in the car, and it's one of those things where it's interesting to see it kind of actualize, because it's like almost like a joke. You know, you're kind of like, yeah, we're gonna have this Italian song, and then it's not real until it is real. And it had a really nice connection, that song, actually, because the house that's Caroline's house is Nancy Demarest's house, and she's a old school soul and came from Hollywood and kind of really knew about movies, so she let us use her house and took in all these kids. And that song she'd been wanting to find since she was like 20. I think when it came out, she was in Turkey and was stranded, and she listened to that song for about a week straight, and that was pre-Shazam, obviously, so she had basically gone, I don't know, about 50 years wanting to hear that piece of music.
And just before opening this conversation to the public, the coach says we are going on a trip to Venice, and that's what's happened to the film.
Yes, I know. Well, that was kind of like foreshadowing, but eager foreshadowing. We were just hoping that would work out. But yeah, I mean, it was a little bit over the top, but I really like that part. Some people think that he wouldn't know where Venice is, but I don't think that's true. I think even though the coach is a brute, he's got an educated wife, he would know a thing like that.
I liked your film very much, but all the film through I had a problem to recognize who is who. Those two boys, for me, I couldn't figure out who is who.
Oh man.
I don't know, because you took shots very quickly and from an angle where maybe it's my age, I don't know.
No, I don't think it's your age. You get sharper in time, man.
No, I was getting mad. I thought it's so bad. I liked the whole story, and I didn't like the end, but I had a problem really to recognize who's who, because the angle from which we shot was always from a side where I couldn't see the face, or I saw something which both had, or the hair, or I don't know.
Well, I'm sorry that that happened for you. I think it was important to me that there was that confusion. So maybe I leaned into that a little bit too much.
It was on purpose.
It was on purpose.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You kind of want to be feeling like these kids are like almost like the same, and understand that even if they come from completely different places, that they're really in a similar situation. One of the more kind of, I guess, not in your face, but kind of an example of showing how one is worth more than the other, kind of from a social perspective, is like the Adam's character. His number on the team is 11, and Bobby's number is 23. So just from a numeric standpoint, he's less than half of what Bobby is. I mean, it's not that that's significant, or you're supposed to understand that as a viewer, but there's little parts in there that are supposed to differentiate. But I will take that into consideration completely. I'm also curious to hear.
Are the actors are brothers?
Yeah, they're brothers, and also like playing on this kind of concept of like Cain and Abel, and like the history of family, and yeah, I think also this first movie I even made when I was a kid called Serial Eater. I did it with my best friend, and the whole thing was kind of about us looking alike, and then in the end of the film finding each other and kind of not being alone, which is kind of part of what this movie is about, but they still kind of don't find each other at the end.
Okay, thank you.
More questions?
I really liked the movie
Oh man.
a lot. I'm curious to know if they are actors and how you work with them, because they don't look like actors. Everything looked very natural.
Yeah, well that.
Did you have the script with the dialogues? Were they free? I'm curious. To know
They were pretty free. The boys, Ben and Jack Irving, they had been attached to the script for almost 2 years before production, so they got to live with the material. They really were like with it. We would have lunch all the time and talk about stuff, and they were really living it. And they had never acted before, but they knew that they wanted to do it. So we kind of arranged for them to take classes. There's this guy, Joe, in New York that actually worked with both of them individually just for this film. And they just did an amazing job. Gabe was the most kind of seasoned actor on set, and I think he really raised the bar for all of them. And he made them all feel like they were really on set on a real movie, you know, because it was really just a bunch of us kids. You know, I was, besides Gabe and Amalia, I was one of the oldest people there almost all the time.
And are they baseball players?
They were actually, and they actually were coached by their father. So there are several weird overlaps. And Lily, who plays Caroline, she had like a love affair with Jack, who plays Bobby, when she was in middle school. So there was a large amount of like these kind of like flashback romances that we had that we didn't actually put into the film, but they really had amazing chemistry. And as a director, I just tried to trust and believe in them and give them as much space as they really needed to find the character, and they really did. I mean, they went above and beyond. You know, every time I'd be sitting behind the monitor, I'd just be watching, and I'd be like, man, they're just doing it perfect. You know, I mean, there would be moments where you need a little bit of, but it was like water. It kind of finds the path of least resistance.
I really love the movie. To anyone that has seen your artwork, it's easy to see how this is kind of like a deeper sensorial experience to what you already do as a plastic artist.
Yeah.
My question is, do you have any idea for what to do next in film? Or?
I'm working on a movie. It's called Get the Kid. It's kind of a similar thing where it's kind of derived from experiences in my own life and then kind of woven in kind of adventure and action stuff that I'm sure I've just absorbed from movies growing up, actually. But yeah, it's going to be a little bit like a modern day Rapunzel. You know, it's like a love story. The boy goes through an adventure to save the love of his life, and he rescues this girl. Yeah, but also we have a bunch of the company Rodeo. We have a bunch of other movies underway as well. We're a small team, but we're as ambitious as it gets, I think.
Other questions? Here.
Hello, I really enjoyed the film. Thank you very much.
Thank you for watching it.
And for me, it was really much also about love.
Yeah,
And
love and survival.
Yeah. My question actually is not. It's related to this. To how is it for you? Is I know it was this. You told us this experience, but what were love? The feeling that was wrapping around, or because it seems that there was someone also there which is not highlighted in the film, someone that's seeing all this.
Oh, like the survivor of the story?
Yes.
Yeah, I think, yeah, well, I mean, I'm I guess the survivor of the story, but I guess the ending, I understand, is maybe controversial for some people, but it's not supposed to be a sad ending. You know, it should be a real ending, but one that makes you realize the consequences of not being straightforward and not communicating and allowing yourselves to go into the darker territories that everyone has in them, but there's just as many positive and light territories in everybody as well. And I guess for me, I had a rough time growing up, and I had a rough time being comfortable with myself. But I got to that point, and so I guess that should be in the movie too.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Hi, I was just thinking about the fact that the kid that grew up with no parents was a free and cool kid, and the kid that had a family was such a disturbed kid. So I just wanted to hear from you something about that. How did you, what do you think about that?
Well, I guess when I was a kid, I used to play on all these like soccer teams and stuff like that. And so I would witness these kids that had way more of a nuclear family than I did. And I was like always alone and running around the woods, kind of how Bobby was. But yeah, you just witness this kind of abuse, the kind of stuff that would happen to Adam. That was not normal in my house by any means, but I would see it all the time. And I would always kind of wonder what it was. They had all the social constructs that would make them kind of desirable as like a nuclear family, but they weren't able to actually be together. Like if you went to dinner at their house, it would be like that. They would all be sitting together, and you could feel the tension. It was palpable. But yeah, I guess it just comes from my own experience and seeing people that have everything they need to be happy, but they're not happy. When really, if they just allow themselves to be who they are, it's right there.
Thank you, Grear,
Oh man, thank you.
here with us, and thank you for your film.
Oh man, it's my pleasure. Thank you.